What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the first playoff edition. I should say the play-in edition, Adam, of the NBA live stream here at FTNDaily.com. My name is Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kawhisenberg DFS, alongside my good buddy who is decked out in the Cleveland Cavalier regalia tonight. It's Adam Pfeifer, the biggest Cleveland fan here at FTN. Adam, how you doing?
I'm ready. I wish Jared Allen was playing, but look, like, if you are an upstart team like Cleveland, this is the scenario you want against a team like Brooklyn with two of the best players in the league. You gotta win one game. You don't gotta win five. You gotta win one. So it'll be fun. And yeah, I mean, playoff basketball, I still consider this playoffs. It's not exactly, win or go home today, but especially for this Cleveland team. I mean, I saw Chris Fedor, who covers the team. He tweeted out their starting lineup is the same with LeVert in it. LeVert's the only player in their starting five with playoff experience, and he's played 9 games, I think he said. So,
wow.
Obviously, they have K-Love and Rondo off the bench, but yeah, their starting five currently has 9 games of playoff experience from Karis LeVert. So that's all I wanted from Cleveland. Like, this still counts for me as playoff experience to an extent. It'll be fun.
I think there's no doubt about it, man. Like, obviously you're not in the first round, but the pressure of a game like this, the environment, the intensity is certainly playoff worthy. So good to see my buddy Cody J in the chat. He hasn't been around for a while. Giving me props for the regalia vocab. I got to pick up the slack when Fast Eddie is not here, or at least do my best. So again, only 2 games here. Obviously, I think 41 minutes and change until the first one tips off, that being the Cavs at the Nets here. The Nets, 9.5-point home favorites here with a 226 implied total. Let's just go ahead and start with the visiting Cavs here, Adam. Obviously, Darius Garland, all-star caliber season. Not going to get their other all-star back tonight. Jared Allen not quite ready, so hopefully – maybe if they don't come out on top in this game, maybe he can come back for that second play-in game. And then certainly if they can get past this round, a good chance for Jared Allen to return in the first round. But the front court's going to be held down by Mobley, Love, Markkanen, and the like. And you mentioned Karis LeVert sitting there at a very nice $6,900 price tag on DraftKings. Again, the most playoff experienced player on this roster. So talk to me about the Cavs, DraftKings specifically, and then we can get into some of the other sites. What stands out to you from a DFS perspective tonight?
I mean, surprise, surprise, Darius Garland. We were talking in Discord about 10 minutes or so before we got on stream. His floor for minutes down the stretch was like 37. His floor for minutes today is probably 40. I think he plays anywhere between, obviously barring foul trouble or any kind of crazy circumstance, I think he plays in between 40 and 43 minutes. He's going to be on the floor at all times. And we know he's been just consistently 20 points, 10 assists as a floor almost for a lot of these games. Last 15 games to end the regular season, Darius Garland averaged 89.7 touches per game. Only Kyrie Irving and Jokic averaged more. So the ball is just always in his hands. Can make the case 9,600 is too cheap on a normal kind of regular season slate given how he's played, but especially in a playoff scenario, playoff atmosphere where he's going to play 40 minutes, he obviously stands out. I think the players that are locked into just massive minutes, and there's a couple, but Garland, Mobley should play anywhere between 37 and 40, and I think Lauri Markkanen plays a ton too. He's been consistently playing a lot. The X factor is obviously Kevin Love, who I'm sure we'll get into, but the 3 I just mentioned would probably be my favorite from Cleveland. But I also think in kind of just an overall if the Cavs are going to win kind of situation, if the Cavs win this game, I think it's going to be either LeVert or Kevin Love having a huge game for them alongside Garland, obviously. So that's kind of my theory for this game. But in terms of projecting minutes, Markkanen, Mobley, and Garland stand out pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I think there's some or certainly a chance of some increased run for Kevin Love. I think.
Imagine if he plays 20 minutes after last game.
Yeah, you continue that pace, he's going to smash it. I mean, I know we touched on it on the pod last night, but 32 and 10 with 2 assists in just under 15 minutes. I don't care who you're playing. That's impressive on any basketball court. So that was fun to watch. I'm actually a little bit like, I have no issue with somebody getting to Darius Garland tonight. I think you're right in that range. I have him for 40 minutes. One thing I'll say off the top, and I was in the Discord earlier this afternoon, kind of trumpeting this as a take, I guess. I think the minutes are greatly over-exaggerated in general for these play-in games. Obviously, we only have the 1-year sample size. But in those 6 games last year, only 8 guys played above 40 minutes, and only 2 guys played more than 42 minutes in regulation. Remember that Grizzlies-Warriors game, the final play-in the West last year went to overtime. So Anthony Davis in their one game played just over 42. Steph Curry played over 40 both times, got over 42 minutes. In regulation in that overtime game, Ja Morant did it both times that they played. Draymond did it both times that they played. And then Jason Tatum. So it's not like every single team that played in the play-in tournament last year was running guys for massive minutes. I will acknowledge some of those games were affected by massive blowouts. Both Pacers games, the Pacers washed the Hornets out by like 35 in the first game, so nobody really got full run there. And then the Pacers got run off the court, I think, by the Wizards in that last play-in game, and nobody quite got to 40 in that one. So it's not crazy at all to project somebody for 40 or even 42 minutes tonight. And I think Darius Garland certainly in the top 3 for me of guys that would project for that many minutes on this slate. But I've seen some other places around the industry kind of saying like 44 to 46 minutes for some of those guys. And I think that's just kind of ridiculous.
I think it depends honestly on Rondo, like how they feel about Rondo, playoff scenarios and everything.
Sure.
Because I don't see a lot of instances where Rondo and Garland are on the floor together. It's just kind of like, what would Rondo be doing in that instance?
Yeah, so that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
I would be very surprised.
Exactly. Yeah, so would I. But like, again, given Garland's price and the touches and the usage and everything and the production, like even if for whatever reason he didn't just go up to 40, like he doesn't have to go up to that crazy 44. He can play 40 just like he's been and still smash. Like he's been awesome, and Brooklyn's defense is terrible. So I think, like I said, I kind of led with it. The clear like X factor is like when Brooklyn, because Brooklyn's going to close probably with Durant at the 5. I would imagine at the last 4 or 5 minutes of these games in the playoffs. What does Cleveland do then? Like, I don't think you can take Mobley off the floor at all, but like, do you see Kevin Love enter the closing 5? When they, you're not going to stop this offense, but like they love Lamar Stevens and Isaac Okoro for defensive purposes. Like on a 2-game slate, they obviously stand out more than they would on a traditional slate, but there's Cleveland has the 3 to 4 players are going to play the minutes, but then they have a couple X factors too, because we know Kevin Love, I mean, we've talked about it all season. If Kevin Love can get to 25 to 28 minutes, he just smashes. He's averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute on the year, 32% rebounding rate, just under a 25% usage rate.
Yeah, I wanted to jump back real quick to Darius Garland, and then just for my own take on him here, I was looking more into the matchups against Brooklyn this year, Adam. And just to finish up on Garland, because I don't want to just completely overlook what you just said, because I agree. The shot attempts are very interesting to me for Garland against Brooklyn. The assists are a little bit down, and I do acknowledge in 2 of the 4 games against Brooklyn, he doubled with assists. But the way that I read Brooklyn guarding Darius Garland and just kind of approaching the Cavs offense is make Garland beat us by scoring and not distributing, because I think their offense as a whole is a lot more potent, a lot more of a threat to a team that struggles defensively when Darius Garland is allowed to distribute. Nobody turn off the show for me making this comparison, but I think the way that they're going to approach Garland tonight is a little bit like Popovich approached the Nash, Amari Stoudemire Suns, where he would let those guys get as much as they wanted, and the ancillary players, no hero role players. And I think that's what we're going to see tonight, or at least the Nets attempt to do tonight. Again, they struggle mightily on that.
It's like the opposite of what Toronto's done defending him. Like they've just doubled Garland, forcing him to pass. So you think it'll be the opposite, which, I mean, Garland, I think when they last played Brooklyn, which was like recently, what do you have? He had 30 real points in that game, right? Like his assists were really low. I remember that game. Maybe
so well, the thing that really highlights this theory for me is the shot attempts. Darius Garland averages almost 7 attempts more per game in the 4 games against Brooklyn this year than he does on the season. And I just think that's a kind of another feather in the cap of the theory that he's going to be pushed more into just a scoring role. And if he doesn't have those assists, a couple rebounds, like if those aren't piling up, I just can't get to him over some of the other spend ups on
That's
this
fair.
slate. Consequently, I think Evan Mobley is a fantastic play. He's my favorite piece to get to on DraftKings from this Cavs team. I think that he's going to have, like you said, it's going to be very hard to take him off the court tonight, especially with no Jared Allen. They're going to need his defense, not just in the front court in general, but if Brooklyn goes small with KD at the 5, which we saw them do for a couple minutes in that last matchup a couple days ago, Drummond in foul trouble, Claxton in foul trouble, which could certainly happen again tonight. You're going to get KD at the 5, and that means Mobley's going to be out there guarding him. I just think his minutes floor is a lot higher than his season average tonight. I've got him for 38. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mobley touch 40 minutes in this one, but I think a touch under that is the correct projection because you do have those other bodies in the front court with Markkanen and with Kevin Love. I'm with you on LeVert. Kevin Love, I think, is fine, especially like if he's going to get into the mid-20s in minutes and, it's probably 26, 27, 28 for a minute ceiling on Kevin Love in this matchup. He's too cheap. Lauri Markkanen sub 6K. I think you can take shots there. And then Isaac Okoro for 3.5. With not a ton of value and it being a 2-game slate, he's fine for me to roster. I don't think I get to him in one lineup outside of him just being a last man in. But that's kind of how I'm looking at Cleveland today. Any other takes on your Cavs? Are you ready to talk Brooklyn?
Yeah, just real quick on Okoro. If your theory about how Brooklyn will defend Garland kind of holds, that's probably not good for Okoro because he's really the second half of the season really improved from 3-point range, especially in corner threes. But if they're just going to not let Garland, operate out of the pick and roll and kick it out, then he won't have as many open looks. But the minutes should be at least decent. And again, it's 2-game slate. I think you can take a shot on him or Lamar Stevens, but that's exactly what it is. It's more of a kind of a dart throw because they can go different ways. And like Mobley on Durant, like nobody can guard Kevin Durant. There's not a person on earth that can. Mm-hmm. But Mobley might be one of the best pure centers in the league that if Durant goes small, like you'd be comfortable with like Bam Adebayo to an extent. And I think Mobley's in that range where he's still going to play all the minutes where Durant's at center anyway.
Yeah, I am with you there. Brooklyn side, no hot takes here. Kevin Durant, a fantastic play. The issue is the price, right? And I'll give DraftKings props because they're making it tough to get to Kevin Durant today, who projects, for me, about 5 points above everybody else on the slate, with Paul George being second. Paul George, significant discount from Kevin Durant, so he is my favorite spend up. Love getting to KD if you can. And I think you can go KD and Paul George or another spend up, but you're really going to have to dig into some of those Isaac Okoro, Nick Batum type plays. We'll get to that. Price considered, I think Seth Curry at 4.4 is my favorite option from this Nets team. You can certainly go Nick Claxton 4K flat. I like him a good bit. I would prefer to get to Claxton, I think, over Andre Drummond, but Andre Drummond for low to mid 20s in minutes, 6.5 is a fine price tag. He would make my player pool. I would have exposure in 20 lineups. Same kind of thing with Bruce Brown. That's just kind of a minutes play at 5.8. And then Kyrie. I would slightly prefer Kyrie to Darius Garland for the premium price you have to pay for him. It's $1,100 more for Kyrie. But they're very close for me in terms of spend up priorities. How are you looking at Brooklyn?
Yeah, Durant's clearly the one if you can get to him. I like the Seth Curry call at 4,400. Like he should play at worst like 30 minutes, but there's plenty of upside for more. It really depends on how much Dragic plays. He's going to have his minutes monitored today. The Bruce Brown went crazy when these teams played the other day. I don't know where that came from. Like he's had strong peripheral games in the past, but a lot of them have been when Brooklyn's been shorthanded and Durant and Kyrie played and Bruce Brown still went off. I agree on Claxton over Drummond just because like if Durant does close at the 5, you think, okay, it's like on top of any other minutes he might play at center throughout the game. That's what like the final 5 minutes of the game where he's at center where there's no Drummond or Claxton. So I think what we see is like both players in the 20 to 24 minute range where if that's the case, like if they both play 22 minutes there, 23 minutes, Claxton's obviously much cheaper, so it's a lot easier to get there. And then, yeah, I mean, like, I prefer Garland over Kyrie for the savings, but like if you like Kyrie and Durant have been playing 40 minutes every game down the stretch. So like anytime that they're playing 40 minutes, they can score 60 plus fantasy points. They're just amazing players. But I think Garland projects similarly to Kyrie, and again, he's cheaper. So
a little bit lower viewership today. I know there's baseball going on and a lot of other things people could be doing with only a 2-game NBA slate. Maybe some people are feeling a little bit scorned by the late season, slates that we had, a lot of craziness. But for the 31 people tuned in, you're in luck. Guess what? Hey, Eddie.
Hi, guys.
So good.
How's you doing?
Man, we're ready for some play-in basketball. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm pretty geeked up. I've been thinking about the game and watching the game and thinking, I'm like, you know what? I'm not on the schedule for some crazy reason, and figured, hey, let's drop in and chat and see what's up. See how things are looking. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good, man. I know, Adam. I have the only 2 Cleveland fans I think here at FTN with me on stream today. I guess I can't leave out Brock there, but yeah, man, we're pretty much through the first game, so I would love to have you circle back and give us your take on this Cleveland-Brooklyn game.
Well, what, if anything, did you guys disagree on significantly?
So I don't know if significantly. I would say probably I prefer Kyrie to Darius Garland as a spend up. Evan Mobley is my favorite player to roster from the Cavs, and prices considered, I like Seth Curry a ton at 4-4 from the Nets. Adam, no surprise, a bigger fan of Garland for the discount over
but
Kyrie.
I thought the point you made is very interesting with Garland, how they might defend him, and that does change some things, because if that's the case, then he's more than capable, but then you have to rely on him to score a little bit more, because he's been an assist machine. But if that kind of, like you said, if they kind of just force him to score, he'll have, it's just interesting, because I remember just watching how Toronto defended him, and it was the complete opposite. So it'll be interesting to see. And it kind of panned out last game they played Brooklyn. He had 31 real points and 6 assists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he and again in that game they stuck Bruce Brown on him pretty significantly, and you have to think that's plan A there. And so I think I don't know how chalk Bruce Brown's going to be, but he's going to be pretty chalk, because people think he's going to play in the high 30s in minutes, and he should play at least high 30s in minutes at a very reasonable price. And what's a pretty good matchup right now? Like, even with Mobley back, without Jared Allen, the Cavs defense has been significantly bad. And like, I've seen some writing today based on, I'm targeting these teams because these are the defensive ratings of the other teams. And that's garbage for any number of reasons, because you have Paul George back, and you have, like, there's all sorts of variables going on. So I wouldn't think like that. So yeah, I think Bruce Brown is deserving chalk. I think they will spend a lot of time with him. I just rewatched Friday's game between these two teams, and they really just made him a primary point of defense, run up and meet him as much as possible. Like, he was on him for literally more than 50% of the time, and he got pretty well cooked. So if we see, I also slightly prefer Garland. Now, that's with the caveat that Durant is predominantly incredibly expensive, especially on a slate with no good value. We have a couple tolerable pieces of value. We have some value with upside, but there's no good value here. There's no one who costs less than $4,000 who should project for much more than 20 for you. You can get there with Vanderbilt, but even that comes with a big floor. This can end up going pretty small pretty quick. They have a couple other guys who they can easily throw out to guard PG-13. So even that, as what I think is by consensus the best point per dollar piece of value, comes with a pretty big floor on it potentially. So I guess my point is, I, sitting here right now, have Darius Garland projected as a slightly better play. I have all 3 of these guys, being Durant, Irving, and Garland, projected for high 30s, low 40s in minutes. I think I actually have them for 40, 40, and 41. And that shouldn't be surprising for anyone. And again, the high minutes for the starters, another reason that it's really hard to get to a couple bench guys here. I do think the real, there's a couple exceptions to that on the Clippers and the Cavs, which we can get to because I think Markkanen may get played off a time or two here. The times he was out there against Durant was, well, it's a technical term, but not good. Lauri Markkanen guarding Kevin Durant is not something you want to do if you can possibly avoid it. He played pretty limited time in that last game on Friday, as I recall. I didn't look up the totals at the end, but he played mid-20s minutes and something, and you got a little extra Kevin Love, not much extra. I think he played only 15 minutes. That was the
25 for Lauri.
That was the absurd Kevin Love game. That was the 55 DraftKings points in 15 minutes game.
Yeah.
Out of
just
Kevin
under
Love.
15 minutes.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
3.8 fantasy points per minute is
sustainable.
For 15 minutes apparently. So I guess the point I was going to make was, in a vacuum, who do I prefer, Garland or Irving? I prefer Garland. I think points per dollar, I think he's a slightly better play, but that means I'm not playing Irving, presumably, though you could play them both. They're a fine pairing.
True.
And if I'm not playing Durant, now I have neither of two massive fucking usage guys on a 2-game slate going against Cleveland who are going to play 40 plus minutes. And that feels dirty. So I guess sort of the answer for me is, if you have Durant, then certainly for me it's Garland. Not necessarily. You can have a Durant, Irving, no Garland lineup. You can just think that the game stays close, but the balance and points is like, that's not an invalid lineup on a 2-game slate. But pretty much I'm on Durant and Garland, or if you don't have Garland, I'm more comfortable having not Garland and smaller pieces of the Cavs, Mobley, who you like and I like a ton. I have Mobley up for 38 minutes.
I have him for 38 as well.
Yeah, he played 34 in the Brooklyn game. It was his first game back, and they were like, "Yeah, he's going to be limited." And I was like, "No, he's not."
Yeah, they said we have to ramp him up first, so they even gave sort of a direct connotation that dude's minutes are going to get to a very appreciable place, and they just need to here. So, yeah, to bring that full circle there, I do in a vacuum prefer Garland as a play, but especially on a 2-game slate, there's nothing very vacuumy about the slate. I do think maybe one point I'm looking to take here is to go really under on Markkanen. There's no issue if you have Markkanen in a lineup. He's still really cheap. He's under 6. He's 5'8" or 5'9". I have him at 28.5 minutes. There's a very real chance he plays 32, 33 minutes. I think most places are going to project him around there. But he's the guy who comes off the court in the event that they want to go more heavily with the bench guys. So I think some amount of Markkanen minutes very possibly turn into Mobley minutes, Love minutes, and even Cedi Osman minutes, which I think is a interesting bench piece that you can deploy. The Nets defense is pretty poor. They're okay guarding the 3-point line, but they're pretty bad about just about everything else. It's a pretty good matchup for Cedi Osman. He probably plays 20 minutes. I have interest in 20 minutes. There's a chance he plays 25. He played extra minutes in that game, point of fact, some of which were at the expense of Lauri. I just watched that. So that's an interesting piece you can get to. Of course, Kevin Love will not be that productive on a point per minute basis, but they could, break glass and put him out there for all of 25 minutes for this game. Trying to think if I have any other significant takes on the first game. I think Drummond is probably underowned. This is still a pretty solid matchup for him. Right now I have him at 23 minutes, which feels about right. I think as I came on, I heard you alluding to some stuff with Claxton. I have some concern there. He's absolutely in play. He costs $4,000. He probably plays 20 minutes or something. But the fact that they're going to play maximum Bruce Brown, maximum Kevin Durant, they'll go small a fair bit. They may want to just deploy more Goran Dragic. Like, I think there's a chance the amount of non-center time they play goes from 5, 6, 8 minutes, which we've seen, to 12. So I think there's some chance you get 19 minutes of Andre Drummond and 16 minutes of Claxton and out or something would not shock me is my point, which would correlate badly with Markkanen. That's like one other thing I want to say is there's a bit of a how big, how small do each of these matchups go. So the Clippers obviously have, Paul George and Reggie Jackson are going to play, and then good fucking luck figuring out the rest. Like, we can talk about it, but there's a lot of ways that team can go. So there are strong cross-team correlations with, say, Jared Vanderbilt and Ivica Zubac. The bigger this game goes, the better time Zoo's going to get, the better time Vanderbilt's going to get. If Vanderbilt plays 30 minutes, there's a much better chance you get 28 out of Zubac, as opposed to if Vanderbilt plays 19 minutes. That's just not happening. So if you're looking to, if you have some number, if you have one lineup, those guys are better together than they are apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you have multiple lineups and have some number of Vanderbilt lineups and some number of Zubac lineups, you should attempt to align them more closely than randomly applying them.
I do want to push back a little bit on the non-center time that they have had, because we did see like that 8 minutes with KD at the 5, that lineup that you talked about, but that in that game was foul trouble driven. Obviously no Dragic, so I'm with you there. But I think the non-center time tonight will max out around that 8-minute mark, barring foul trouble. I think that could extend that number, but
you would need, was there foul trouble on both of those guys?
Yes.
There was foul trouble on Claxton and Drummond?
Yep.
I remember the foul trouble on Drummond. I didn't remember it on Claxton.
Yeah, it was actually worse on Claxton.
I only remember 3 fouls. Okay, that's relevant, certainly, for going with the specific number. I would still say you look at this line and go, who do I have to get big against?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do they need a center out there? And even there's a chance that there's like in chance of emergency, break glass and deploy random other bigs on this team who are experienced in whatever the crap, and you see Griffin, Aldridge, cobwebs in play here. I just, I guess I'm saying I'm slightly higher on Drummond than Claxton in one lineup that is a GPP, because I think the ownership will probably be too low on Drummond and too high on Claxton. Claxton projects just great. He probably plays 20, 22 minutes. He costs 4K. There's no goddamn value out there. That's fine. I just think there is a non-zero chance. And again, this is going to correlate with how well Mobley is doing. One of the things the Cavs have done a lot this year is when opposing teams go small, they will actually feed Mobley. When you see those random ceiling games out of Evan Mobley, it's usually they were playing someone who went really small. And I went, okay, we're just going to let Mobley post people up and do baby hooks for a half hour. And some of those games where you actually randomly caught 20 shots out of him, you were like, oh, okay. Like, that was by design to some degree. So, again, there's going to be some cross-correlation there with having Mobley alongside either Claxton or Drummond, because, it's a little weird because he tends to get to his ceiling more when the opposing team is running small. But I would think Nash would respond with putting in one of those guys. It's just an issue of you're not taking Kyrie out. You're not taking Durant out. You're not taking basically Bruce Brown out because you need Bruce Brown to sit on Darius Garland. This team, if they lose, it's going to be because the opposing teams put up 130. Like, they're not going to lose by not getting buckets. This team's going to get buckets very well. You can sit down Seth Curry. You don't want to, and there's a real question as to how bad that ankle is. He's going to be dealing with it for the entire postseason. He's not 100%. They've made that clear. I have him for 30 minutes still. So if all guys are playing all that time, and if you think Dragic does anything, Dragic is a really interesting question. Dragic is, I think, 4,200, which is not cheap. I have him for 17 minutes right now. That's obviously not enough, but he is a guy with a real ceiling, and in a matchup we like, who is going to be 3% owned, and you're not going to have many guys who can pick up an upside. That's right. Chetty Osman probably plays high teens, low 20s in minutes, either needs to be exceptional or there needs to be an injury or a game needs to go a little sideways for that to happen. But I guess that's it. That's sort of where I would draw my line on Brooklyn. You could play Patty Mills. Similar reasoning. I don't think I want to. I'd have him behind Dragic, but you have the good 6 players basically, with the starters and Claxton, and then probably Dragic, Mills. I don't think I would get to any Kessler Edwards unless I was really, really
not with those guys back. I just
getting in there for value. Yeah, I think that's too cute for me. So depending on how many lineups, that's sort of your core. And then for the Cavs, I also have Mobley as my favorite play. I have Mobley, then Garland pretty clearly as a second, but again, the price and the correlation makes it interesting. And then it's interesting, but it's probably LeVert and Love about tied. Okoro is very much in play as a value play. They're going to put him out there. He'll be the primary defender on Kyrie for a lot of the game. Don't worry, that's not a problem for Kyrie if you have any. He's not that good. But it's Okoro. By a raw projection, it would be Okoro a little more than Cedi Osman. I don't want to get to a Rondo. If you do, for some reason, don't play Garland. It means he broke his leg or has 5 fouls or something, so don't do that. And again, I'd have Lamar Stevens behind Okoro Osman.
Yeah. So. Let's go ahead and break into that second game because we've got about 12 and a half minutes here. No, all good. So this one, 231 implied total. The Wolves actually favorites here. If I was a betting man, and I am, I would take the Clippers here. So let's talk the Clippers side because I think this is kind of the most interesting team where I think the field is going to make a mistake. I see a lot of love, or at least a lot of questions around the industry, people discussing, writing up guys like Ivica Zubac and Isaiah Hartenstein. And I think people have forgot that the best form of this Clippers team is going small, and they can absolutely do that against this Wolves team. And not only can they do that, they've done that in the regular season.
Yeah, Batum at center is their cream dream.
And now they've got Covington in the mix. Marcus Morris is healthy. Like, there's just so many ways that they can go small and defend this Wolves team. And so I think in my if I was running my 20 lineups, I would have maybe a share or two of Zubac, and I'm straying far away from Hartenstein. I think I have him for 12 minutes. I had him for 14 minutes, and I think that may actually be a little bit high.
I have him for 17, and I'm lower than the 2 other sites I've looked at.
Sure.
So I have the same theory as you. I do think there are ways they go. I think there are ways this game stays big. But I do think it's more likely that they go small. Again, the way they like to defend this and the way they've defended this, not only previously this year, but with great success previously this year, is to keep Towns outside. Now, the thing is, they have liked to play sort of a 4+1 weird box thing where they actually give Batum ball responsibility on Towns. So the ball gets on Towns and they put Batum on, but they leave Zubac usually out there as well as a floater. So they basically box off on him. And this is where you're going to get into the weird chess match stuff. They basically abandon a guy. They cover D'Lo. They cover Anthony Edwards. They cover Karl Anthony Towns, respectively, with Beverly, usually McDaniels, and sorry, I'm flipping my teams here. Point being that they put Batum up on Towns' face, and they put Zubac sort of standing at the top of the key, and they let them play around and run switch. So while I do think it is their goal to, for rebound reasons and a couple other things, I think there is a reasonable chance Zoo does get 2 more time. I am concerned with Hartenstein. You obviously can play him. It's a 2-game slate. The guy can accrue massive fantasy points in a very limited time. He could play 17 minutes and have 30 fantasy points, but he's 5'6". So for me, I'm a much bigger. I messed around with rankings earlier today. I think I had Zubac at an 8 and Hartenstein at a 6 or a 7. I think Hartenstein's in play. It's a 2-game slate. That's what a 6 or a 7 means to me. You can throw him in there, but I think he will still hold significant ownership. Like I think Hartenstein is like 12% owned. That's too high for me. If I thought he was going to be 2% owned, I'd be like, oh, okay, sure. I can get out there and maybe there's some crazy 40-point blowout. But it is really interesting to go back and look at, how they've defended Towns, how they want to defend Towns, things recently getting that sack of money Chris Finch has talked about, and that they've intentionally stayed out on Towns and thrown Batum at him as a primary defender. So I think that speaks a little for Batum upside. I have Batum for 26.5 minutes. I suspect that's a few minutes over most of the field. But yeah, sorry, I'm going to shut up now because it's Adam's show and I'm taking all his time.
No, I'm perfectly fine, man.
Taking it in. For what it's worth, I'm a little bit higher on Batum's minutes there. I've got 28, and I think that may be a little bit high. It's tough for me, Eddie, and I don't know if you had similar issues doing the minutes here with all those kind of small ball forwards in there. Like there's just so many ways that those minutes could be distributed.
Yeah, this. I mean, another thing is Marcus Morris.
Yep.
I have Marcus Morris for 30. They've really stuck with Marcus Morris in a lot of positions where I don't know if they should. And he has a real ceiling. Like at 5,500, I can't hate Marcus Morris playing 30 minutes and scoring 40 fantasy points. That's a real possibility. But the issue is he is so fungible with. Did we get Kennard news yet? We still have questionable Kennard.
No, he's been ruled out. He's not even there.
He's not with the team.
I don't know what the official injury report is.
The official injury report says questionable, I think. So hold on, I'm going to check. I want to make sure. Actually, I only checked the 6:30.
He didn't travel with the team.
Yep.
How the hell did I miss that? Oh well, I'm not on. I didn't do my normal morning stuff.
It was like this afternoon. It kind of like
he's questionable at the injury report, so that's really peculiar. But anyhow, he's questionable as of 20 minutes, according to the NBA. So if he's not there, I think the odds are he won't play. I didn't think he was necessarily going to play in game one anyway, nor should they play him when he isn't 100%. All these guys are very fungible. You have Norm Powell, who I think I'm stronger on than the field. We haven't seen a ton of it yet. I don't think a lot of people will get there. But you have Norm Powell and Terrence Mann, obviously, and Robert Covington and Batum, and there's just a lot of guys to fill in that space pretty equitably. So like I said at the beginning of the show, I think Reggie Jackson is safe for his time. It's a really bad matchup. They've defended him well. Beverly is going to sit on him. That's never a great thing for your production. You can play him. I have 33 minutes. I think 33, 34 are all very reasonable, minute either side of that, and projects for a little less than that in fantasy points. It's not a great spot, but 2-game fucking slate. All he has to do is make a couple extra shots. Go ahead and get there. I think I have Paul George for 39 minutes. I like Paul George quite a bit. But after those two guys, there are infinite ways this game can go. And I am much more comfortable, I guess, not passing the buck, but just saying, like, I can see 16 ways this goes. I know what they want to do. I think there's a real good chance that Zubac actually gets to mid to high 20s in minutes. I do think that's almost impossible for Hartenstein. If Zubac was 20% and Hartenstein was 2, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and do whatever you want. Zubac can get 3 fouls, and then, you know.
Right. For what it's worth, I have Zoo for 24 minutes. So I'm not like completely taking him out of the rotation or anything.
He's and center is actually a pretty weak spot tonight after Claxton, who, again, I've expressed some degree of issues with. You don't want to play. Like, it's a legit bad matchup for Towns. Like, they've done an extremely good job. It's the best matchup of these 3 guys for Anthony Edwards. Burying the lead a little bit here. It's not a great matchup for Anthony Edwards. He does not project as incredible for me. I have Ant-Man at 38 minutes and 41.5 fantasy points. That's not setting the world on fire, but all he has to do is make a couple extra shots, and it is less bad for him than it is for Towns and D'Lo pretty markedly.
Is that more your take on Towns being in a worse spot there? Is that because they're going to throw more attention at him and more bodies and just like
it's one of the things that, say what you will about the various coaches around the league, was one of the things Ty has always done pretty well. Is he's always actually managed Towns pretty well. Like he's not at a good game this year, I don't think.
No, he hasn't.
Back into this, but they do a very good job against him, and where they lose is to drivers, and occasionally you'll get a decent 3-point volume can take them out. It'll be interesting to see exactly how many minutes we might be able to pick up out of Malik Beasley. There is a ceiling there. You can deploy Malik Beasley, especially if Taurean Prince is out. We don't have specific news there yet, but that's going to open up that rotation a bit.
And that was a late morning add to the injury report, right? He was not.
I don't think he was on yesterday when I looked.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's significant. I have Prince for 16 minutes right now, and obviously those would get distributed to some of those lesser secondary really tertiary value pieces, your McLaughlins, Noels, Malik Beasley, McDaniels. Yeah. We had a question about McDaniels. Do either of you guys think that he's going to pick up more minutes tonight and get kind of back to that, or at least closer to that role he saw before the injury? I'm not there.
It correlates negatively with playing lots of Vanderbilt, because I think Vanderbilt is going to get a fair bit of the opening guard Paul George business, actually. Like, they're going to run him all the way out there for that, and they need the defensive assignment. So if you're not playing Vanderbilt, you really want to be playing Jaden McDaniels at some point there. There's a couple other ways you can go with this, but again, just a guy who correlates negatively there. So if you're not playing Vandy, I like sort of making that swap over there. But right now I have McDaniels at 18.5 minutes. But there are a number of ways in which you can get 25 out of him, and he'll again be 2 or 3% owned. So really hard to get there in one lineup. I think the most likely conclusion is he plays 16, 18, 19 minutes, and he's not even a good fantasy producer. So I think I have him for 18, 19 minutes and 12, 13 fantasy points. It's a really difficult spot to get to, but it's a 2-game slate, and you absolutely can get there, especially when you always have to correlate with how bad the other value is. It's one of the reasons I can get behind him and Cedi Osman. Cedi Osman can score 21 and be in the optimal easily. That would not shock me whatsoever. There's very little value, and if these are the right studs to have, then you're going to need some of it, and it may end up being some of these guys coming in. So I think you can get to him and Cedi and Goran Dragic, things of that nature.
Yeah. We've only got 2.5 minutes until this first game locks. Let's talk a little bit of Norm Powell, because there's no questions built up in the FTN Discord.
Sure.
Low 5K price tag. Obviously, we haven't really seen him get back to full minutes yet, coming back from the foot injury. I think he's good to go for 30 minutes tonight, but we just haven't seen it. So, Adam, how are you looking at Norm Powell 5'4" on DK?
I think he's interesting. We've seen, it's been obviously a small sample, but the last week with Paul George back in the lineup, I mean, Norman Powell's usage rate's been really high. It's been around 29% overall. I can look at exactly what it is with Paul George on the floor.
You're about right. Yeah. No, it doesn't correlate well with the Paul George stuff, but I think he's one of the guys who would eat Marcus Morris this time.
Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with him. I honestly think Paul George and Reggie Jackson, like Eddie said, are the two that you just know are going to play the minutes. And then it's all kind of a crapshoot. But literally Marcus Morris, Covington, Batum, and Norman Powell are all perfectly in play. It's just going to come down to who gets the bump in minutes, because like Eddie said, they have now consistently the last couple postseasons have been not just willing, but comfortable playing Marcus Morris a ton of small ball 5. But like you said, Zach, they don't just have Marcus Morris as their small, you have Covington, you have Batum. And if Batum for me is probably my favorite play outside of Paul George from this team, 4,300. Eddie talked about how they defend Towns with him, but Powell's the player that among those 4 or 3 outside of George has a ceiling of actually, seeing usage, legitimate, decent usage. Marcus Morris does to an extent too, but more so shot volume.
Yeah, question. Sorry, Eddie. I was just saying, question here from Shazam. Right before lock, Ant and Mobley or Cat and Marcus Morris. I would go with Anthony Edwards and Evan Mobley there.
So would I.
Adam.
I think I would too. Yeah. And we talked, and Towns in 3 meetings against his team is 15 and 8 in terms of points and rebounds per game, just 35 fantasy points. So he really hasn't succeeded against his team yet.
And then he had a 1v1 to finish off that lineup, Norm or Zubac. I would go with Norman Powell.
I would go with Norman Powell there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are, let's see.
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds. So good luck, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us. Over 50 people still watching here at Lock. Only 12 likes. So for Eddie stopping by, helping us out on this play-in slate, hit that like button on your way out. You can subscribe, hit the notification bell to know when FTN Daily goes live. And if you're catching us for free, maybe you're scrolling the timeline, you see, oh, hey, Eddie popped in to the NBA live stream, and you're not a premium member here. You can come over, use the promo code FTNTV. It's all one word. It gets you 15% off your first month here at FT. And you're going to get access to the premium Discord channel where all 3 of us have eyes on the questions from our subscribers, not looking at that YouTube chat, unfortunately. You're also going to get access to all the ownership, player projections, the FTN Optimizer. It has late swap capability, which can be extremely useful, especially in these playoff slates. Like this weekend, we're going to get 4 games that last all day. Any sort of late news, you're going to need that late swap capability in your optimizer, all the tools, on-off splits, etc. Rankings from Fast Eddie, Fear, and myself every single day that we're on stream. So again, you can use that promo code FTNTV. It's all one word, and you get 15% off your first month. If you stick with us past that first month, you get another 15% off. It's going to be applied to your account every month thereafter through the end of the NBA Finals. So come join us, sign up little playoff run here at FTN Daily. Get in that Discord, tag us 3, and let us know that you're here because we would love to have you. Shall we play a little ownership game, fellas? Our buddy Shazam was looking in or took our ownership projections, and he said there's probably going to be a big skew in ownership here towards this first game. Looking at our ownership projections, he totaled them up by team. So he's thinking it's about a 500 to 300 split.
Give me a sec on that.
Sure.
Because I think the studs from this game are actually under-owned.
Okay.
Now it's because of a lot of the value, but I think like all the spend ups in this game are really low. I'm trying to think who the most owned stud is going to be between. We'll just call it like I don't know if we does Mobley count as a stud in the sentence I'm about to issue here. You'd have to let me know that because I think Mobley is the highest owned, and that but like even I think he's under owned. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. So I would say that he should be with the time ceiling and more at center, which is good for his production. Like I think he should be in the mid to high 40s on a 2-game slate, and I think he comes in under that. But then after that, it's going to be way down till you get to what I think is Durant. But I think this game is actually under-owned, believe it or not, relative to where it should be. I think it is heavily owned on the value. I think you're going to have I'll go number 1, Bruce Brown. I don't know if you've pulled this up yet, but I'll go Bruce Brown as the highest.
That was going to be my guess too.
Bruce Brown, number 1.
Do you want to like do a game here?
Yeah, let's go. We'll go a little back and forth. We'll start with Adam. So we got Bruce. How owned is Bruce Brown on this 2-game slate?
45.
I'll
51.
I'll take
51.
Take the over or under.
I thought we were going back and forth.
yeah.
I thought see, look, Eddie. I'm looking at this like a teamwork type of thing. Where
You're
Adam
no
gets
kind
one,
of
then
Monty
you get
Hall.
one.
Oh, fine.
Well, you both got Bruce Brown number 1, so I guess we'll toss it to Eddie. Who is the second highest owned player in this game?
Seth Curry.
Seth Curry, number 2.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that people don't play enough of Kyrie and Durant is they'd have 4 or 5 nets. Because I suspect these two numbers are going to add up to 100 or something. How much was Brown? Did you say 52? Something
51
like
for Bruce Brown.
Yeah.
46. Like it's a number.
Well done. 45.9. Right there.
Oh.
So the under.
Yeah, the under would have been the win there.
All right, Adam. Bruce Brown, number 1. Seth Curry, number 2. Who is number 3?
Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley, number 4.
Nick
by
Claxton.
2. Nick Claxton, number 3.
Yeah.
Separated by 0.21%.
So 30, well, let's see, 35-ish.
Yeah, about 31.5 for both guys.
So that's what I'm saying. There's a ton of that.
So Eddie, you said Mobley should be at least 40 in your opinion, and you said he'd be under, right?
Yeah, and he's 31 apparently, give or take percent or whatever he just said. That's a little too low for 7,300.
Yeah,
like he projects better for me than Anthony Edwards at 8,300, who I don't hate. Who projects like so I suspect that was our sort of largest edge at lock was ending up a little bit over there, and then you're just gonna get. I guess it's his turn or something, but I think we're close to or up to Durant. Maybe there's something else stuck in here, but I suspect Durant's the next.
Bruce Brown, Seth Curry, Nick Claxton, Evan Mobley. Number 5 to you, Adam.
Torn between Durant and Garland. I'll go Durant, though.
Durant is number 5.
26.
Yeah, 29, right there.
Right. So that's on a 2-game slate. I think he's everybody's highest projected player. And obviously you're not picking in a vacuum. There's 0 decent value. So he needs to, like, if he's everyone's highest projected player at 56, 57, 58, I have a feeling is where most people's projections are landing. That isn't going to do it. So, I mean, he still needs to have a good game. But that's really low on a 2-game slate for Kevin Durant. A lot of people are just like, well, I can get Paul George for less, and I can get Anthony Edwards for less, and I can get these guys for less. And I've already got 3 nets.
You can get literally everybody for less today.
That's everyone for less.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I think it was before you came on the stream, Eddie, but I gave DraftKings some rare props, because I thought they got that pricing right. You know, kept the Durant ownership moderate there. which is,
if he's I don't know how much it is. Like, I think it's almost entirely automated at this point, which is something I will endlessly give big DFS companies shit for. Is like, can you manually have a person look at the shit before you hit public? Like DraftKings now has, I don't know what the number is. I'll go with 4,000 employees. Now 3,200 of them are in the sports book. So don't get me wrong, but there's 50 people in the live ops team and the product team for the sportsbook. Have someone look at the shit before you hit post every day. It's not hard. Just like, here's the list on a 2-game slate. Here are the 38 player fucking salaries. Oh, let me see. Hey, that's ridiculous. Like, it wouldn't take that, it's every time like there's a bad football salary, especially drives me crazy, where they're like, oh, they've done it several, like 3 of the last 5 years. They'll have week 1 of NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And for good or bad reasons, they'll want to put up week 2 of NFL as soon as possible. So it goes up mid-Sunday or Sunday night, but certainly before Monday Night Football, if not before Sunday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
And frequently they fuck it because they haven't just made manual adjustments. Or a guy gets hurt week 1 at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So, like, football's been going for 30 minutes, and then clearly this guy is not starting week 2.
Yeah.
But his backup, when the slate goes live 10 hours later, is still priced at the minimum. And I want to pull my damn hair out. I'm like, for fuck's sake, you got...
Well, we'll get the week 1 salaries too, like a month before, and like training camp starts then, and preseason games. And
obviously that is bad for the product, but the offhand is the ability to set up promo codes and landing pages and send out mailers and do a million. So there is, I don't know what's in the other hand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You gain something by putting it up a month in advance. That's really hard for me to quantify. I know it's shit for the product, but you're gaining something here. So, okay, whatever. But
Once
for
you
the
get to the
other one,
season,
when it's like, you lose nothing, have a human being look at this list of numbers and go, oh, fucking whatever. Eli Manning got killed in a hunting accident. I need to bump up his backup. Like, takes 30 seconds and your product's much better. So that one always drives me nuts, where it's like, okay, you have human beings. I presume some of them follow football. Get on top of that shit.
Wonder who else is on the hunting trip with Eli Manning and Dick Cheney. Be interested to see that, who's in that hunting party.
They would hunt together too.
Yeah,
I'll go with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Donald Trump.
Those guys hang out?
Donald Trump Jr. The hunting trip would be on there.
DJ TJ,
yeah. Esquire would make his way on that trip.
Shall I just go ahead and read out the rest of these
I don't know where
go for it.
Where we left.
So Drummond was right behind KD, 28% for Drum Dog there. Isaac Okoro at 25. Garland right behind him.
I'm sorry, I just want to take my L on Drummond being that high. I didn't think. Now, that was me maybe not spending enough time. There aren't that many good center options. So even if Drummond is 24 minutes, 30 fantasy points, 6,500, that's pretty fucking good on this slate. But I thought Claxton was going to be predominantly more than Drummond. He is not.
Isaac Okoro at 25%. Just let you know it's a 2-game slate.
Yeah.
And how bad the value is. Like, even if there's a really, really good piece of value, like, you're going to have Vanderbilt at 50% or something. But and like, again, like, I think Chetty is going to be like 10.
Hell of a call.
The interesting thing with Chetty is
9.69.
he was like kind of out of the rotation for a little bit leading up to the last couple games, and now he's I think
he's got his spot back, it seems like. I thought it was interesting too that I believe Dean Wade is the guy who got the primary assignment on KD in the regular season matchups. Yep. Obviously, with Wade being out, some adjustments needed to be made here. Kevin Love, 23. Laurie Markkinen, 22. Karis LeVert, 19. That's not terrible. Kyrie Irving, 15.5 on this 2-game slate. Chetty Osman, as I said, 10%. Rajon Rondo at 7 alongside Lamar Stevens. Patty Mills and Goran Dragic both at 6. Patty Mills actually getting the 0.14% above Goran Dragic. Kessler Edwards, 1.7. LaMarcus Aldridge, some LMA faithful out there, 1.5% of the field decided to go with LA there. And 0.8 stuck with Moses Brown, and a very nice 0.69 on Blake Griffin.
Nice.
So, 2-game slate. You got to get crazy. That was from the $20 to enter, 100K to first, 500K prize pool. Not bad. They're on DK today.
That is a lot.
Well, fellas, what do you say we go watch them playing basketball?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah. Appreciate you dropping by, Eddie, Adam. Appreciate you being with me as always. I go 12 hours with Adam Pfeifer. I need some more. So I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Nice
Appreciate
jersey, Adam.
everybody.
Nice jersey, Adam.
It's Mobley.
Looking
It's
good.
Mobley.
Looks
Is it
authentic.
Mobley? Oh, I should go put on. I
My
don't have a
authentic
Mobley
one
yet.
is over. This is not authentic. I do have an authentic one, but
Okay.
So you're slumming it. Got
I
it.
am.
Would you steal a car? Then no, I'm just kidding.
We appreciate everybody sticking with us through this short, about an hour long stream. I believe Eddie and I are back tomorrow for the next 2 play-in games. Both of those elimination games. My Spurs on the slate. Let's go Pelicans for Eddie and Adam.
We're going
I'm
to talk
Zach.
about that.
Good luck tonight, everybody. And as always,
Let's get these beans.